Oh, definitely. And to echo everybody, my co-panelists, advocation is the key. Looking at the Metrobus app, what is St. John's populations and what is the population of people using the bus? If you look at it, there's 43 feedbacks on the app from the population. So we need more advocation. Your voices need to be heard for change to happen.
I'm going to ask about perhaps the most dreaded part of St. John's as it goes for public transit, that being Kenmount Road. If you want to get there, it's fairly not convenient. Like my routes are usually always upwards of an hour or more just to get to the top of Kenmount Road, and I live over by the Village Mall, which would normally be a 10, 15-minute drive. So what is the public transit solutions to an urban fixture that's largely designed around cars and not public transportation?
Well, in my opinion, end of the day, what we look at is demand and supply. So we have to encourage and advocate for more people to use public transit for those stops to increase the demand so that St. John's Metrobus will be able to see and analyze the data they gathered to increase their stops and frequencies to those places.
Yeah, I also think this is a very, very important question. This is something we should absolutely be bringing up with Metrobus, because if you look at the structure of Kenmount Road, it also has a lot of offices. So if you're not letting professionals or young professionals to access public transport, how are you going to retain the customer base that you have now? And so it's a very important question about the future of Metrobus for sure.
What if there was a better Metrobus app where you could track the buses, like how you can see in Uber or DoorDash, where the vehicle is at a specific time? I know there is Metrobus apps, but I was thinking if it could be improved.
I think I can speak to that one. It's a bit of a puzzle to me, frankly. There is a Metrobus app. I'm not sure how many of you use it. It does allow you to track buses in real time, but it's a terrible app. Unfortunately, there are many good apps for transit, but and you can use them, but they don't track the buses. So it's kind of between two stools. What Metrobus needs to do, of course, is to make the data of its real time open. But I see a hand from someone who might know more than I about what's going on there.
No, I was simply going to ask if anybody within the college or university, from a technical standpoint, vast sea of knowledge, students up and coming, the students, I feel, should be leveraging their own knowledge to advise the city and advise government, because they don't know. They simply don't know. So on the side of Metrobus, it's simply, from an IT perspective, asks them for their data on how they log it. That should be it, and it's publicly available if you scroll the website. So it's just, my question for you guys would be, why not ask the students? Why not ask your architectural programs, your engineering programs, your sociology programs at MUN? Ask those students to do programs to do the studies, help the college, and then, or help the city, help the government understand. Because honestly, every time I've dealt with, I've done work with Dave with Happy City, the government's just not smart.
Well, I would say it's occasionally smart. He's not motivated to put energy into it. You guys have energy and time and expertise. And so if you just hand them the answer on a plate, they might pick it up.
Absolutely. I think, the city and Metrobus do need some motivation. But when it comes to technical know-how, the city already and Metrobus does it with GoBus. You can track GoBus buses on an app. So the city knows how to do it. It's just there's a lack of interest to do it.
Hi there. I was going to try to get a show of hands from the audience of who came here on the bus. Okay. And then I was going to ask each of you guys, if I could, just to tell us the top 3 reasons quickly why the rest of us didn't.
I can say the reasons why I know I didn't. I'm so confused by the service. I do not know how to, and it doesn't go to where I live. I live on Mount Pearl, and I live on the edge of Mount Pearl, which is right next to Kenmount, and there's still no access. So those are my top 2. The third is I also don't have change on me. So mildly inaccessible to not have cash.
Yeah. As a first year student, I used the bus a lot, but then just like Mary, I got super confused as to what's happening, what my schedule looks like. Because if I had to go somewhere at 2, I would maybe need to get out at 12, which was not convenient enough. So I switched to becoming a pedestrian. That worked way better. Like I walked to places way faster than I got there in buses. And that's how it's been for me since I moved to Center City. I just can walk quicker than a bus can get me there. And so, I don't use that. But also what Mary said, as a pedestrian, if I even want to use the bus, sometimes there is an accessibility when it comes to change. And so, some sort of digital payment system, even though I know that's coming, it's in the talks. And I hope it's here soon enough. So, it's more convenient to use the bus if you just want to. Yeah, I don't really have a third reason, but yeah, I'm just confused.
Personally, for myself, I came to Canada in 2019, towards the end of 2019, right before Snowmageddon. So I had first-hand experience of using the Metro bus. I come from United Arab Emirates, a country that is really warm, and it's like 45 degrees across the year. We have a really good bus system over there. There is air-conditioned bus stops at every stop. There was real-time tracking. So when I came over here, I started using the Metro bus, and it was the timings, the frequencies were so low. I've never been in a country where a bus stops at 7 o'clock. in UAE, it's 24-hour service, so they have frequencies at all hours of the day and night. For me, it was the weather and the lack of sheltered bus stops. It was the frequency of the buses, long wait times. And I personally had an experience where I was at Health and Science Center and I had to wait for an hour and a half for a bus that was scheduled to arrive within 15 minutes of me getting to the bus stop. So those were my reasons. And I believe it's a lot of newcomers and governess refugees who come here from different countries. They experience these challenges.
It just shows that, wherever people want to go, the bus does not go there. It's completely different if you look at some of the other Canadian cities like Montreal. They have their own version of Signal Hill, I guess, Montreal or whatever. But if you want to get on top of Montreal, there's a bus that will take you on top of Montreal, and it's very different for St. John's. And so those not servicing areas that people really want to go to, or just the accessibility to Metrobus isn't there. For it to be used enough.
This question is more like long-term focus. Like public transit is by and large catered and centered around the ways in which our cities and municipalities are built and structured. So I guess in any of your experience, is there any discussion or consultation surrounding, I guess, the ways in which we build our cities, or perhaps can or I don't know what term to use, but change the way our cities are? Because, St. John's does not have a conventional grid pattern. So I guess maybe down the line, 10, 15 years from now, is there a potential ever open dialogues for a long-term project that either increases density, creates more roads that don't look like this, that can sort of, I guess, improve public transit down the line when you have a city that's really designed for it?
I think there's a broad consensus in principle that there should be more density. But if you then look at what comes out, because there are various stakeholders and lobbyists involved, the change is glacially slow, sadly. So, like, as much as anything else, holding whether it be the council or the province or what have you, to account, to live up to the things that they will say that they would like to do is the key there. But I do want to caution you. You will hear, because of our street layout, because of the way things have been, that St. John's Transit, we can't make it really very good because it's complicated. I don't feel that you should let that lie, because if you've been to Europe at all, have you seen their streets? It's not, none of this is actually rocket science. And if you look at, it's an easy example to make, but I'll use it. You look at the amount of money being spent on adding an additional turnoff to Galway on the highway would be enough to double the spending on transit for a year. If you look at extending the Tingushu Highway, that could set up a decent regional transit system. The sums involved compared to the amount of benefit you could get from having a transit system that was appealing to a broad range of people are really not large. The difficulties are not that big. The amount, sadly, when you start from a base this low, it doesn't take very much to improve it a great deal. We have one bus shelter for every 20 bus stops. If you improve that to say 1 in 5, imagine even without, you wouldn't need to hire a lot of extra people or run a lot of extra buses. That would already be a huge difference. If you had an enclosed bus depot somewhere aside from that sort of corner of MUN where you can hang sometimes, if you had an enclosed space that was warm where you could wait for buses, even if you didn't change the frequency, you'd still have a much better bus service. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit there. It's just a question of presenting it and advocating for it and bringing on board the many other constituent groups who have a similar interest to your own.
For a city council to be able to put more financial resources into a public transit system, there has to be support from the population at large. And I'm wondering if there's a way, and the media would certainly have a role in this, on educating the public about the benefits to everybody, even people who don't take public transit, from having, a well-funded, efficient, and convenient public transit system. And I wonder if any of you have any thoughts on, what could be done to educate the public.
I think the best way to educate people is to have them engaged in the system. And so, even the silly idea of making transportation free during 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening, that can go a long way. When people start using it, there's more people engaged with the bus system. Those people will defend for more funding on public transport. Those people will advocate themselves for more investment on, just accessibility around the city. And so, I think that's very important as to how the city is looking to sort of get people on the bus and educate them that way. The hands-on learning, experiential learning. That's what it is. That's the right word.
To go from MUN to my house near Village Mall, which would take 7 minutes by car. 7 minutes. It took me 2 hours of my life to go back and forth every day to school. So do you guys have any solutions for that, or to make the service, a little bit more faster, easier?
The city has a mandate, which it is successfully following, that most of the population is near enough walk to a bus stop, which means, I hope it is not the case, but it does mean that they can kind of wash their hands. They can say, look, we have a transport service. Now, the problem is, in order to do that, you have routes which, as you'll have experienced, for example, go in a big loop or go in a weird zigzag or whatever, because it's not about speed, it's about covering everyone. And that's all it's about for a lot of it. We talk about express buses. Well, an express bus costs more because, you only pick up people at each end. And if it's an express bus that covers a regular route, then it adds zero value because you're not covering any additional people according to that model. So yeah, it's a money thing. And I would just like to reiterate what other people have been. There has been a lot of talk about the city, and it's not perfect, but it isn't really a city problem because they're trying to sort it out on their own.
But just to add, I think I would also like to see, I know you say that it's not that they can't figure it out, but I would love to see more consultation, especially with anyone who is interested in using it and students. So reaching out to the student unions to be like, can you forward this to your members? Being like, where do you live currently? Around what time do you need to use the bus? What building do you need to be at? I don't know the proper grammar anymore. But things like that, so they can have more insight of where they need to put the investments, I think would be really important.
We met when we met the counselor last week. We asked about what their future plan was with all the federal funding that's coming in, and there's $27 million that's coming in, and it's actually going to change. Or Metrobus is utilizing that money to change their fleet and order a bunch of hybrid buses. While I agree that we do need hybrid buses, we need more environment friendly transit system. The problem is we don't have a system, and so we would need a system first to replace it. And so I think when it comes to spending money wisely, I think it should be spent on getting that system up and running and then changing fleets to hybrid, electric, whatever it takes.
So the first question is, what made the UPass fail the first time, and essentially, like, how can we fix it? And then the second question is, how can we make the public transport system more accessible to immigrants or New St. John's residents? So I feel like that one's for this half, and the other one's for that half. So
To speak on the UPass first. One of the original reasons UPass failed was because there was no opt-out method to the fee that students were paying in. And I believe it was $138 at the time. It may be plus or minus a couple dollars. But you pay $138, you get free bus service for the entirety of the semester. That was the deal. And there's no opt-out. So you just pay into university fees. And I think that's what did not attract students. But again, if you look at it, having an opt-out system or have to opt in is what we have currently. You need to buy a bus pass, opt in to the transportation system, sort of. But when you enroll students or any population into a certain program and then give them the option to opt out, statistics shows that a lot less people opt out of things. So I believe this is a risk worth taking, but that is also a conversation with Metrobus if they're willing to take that risk, because that's probably one of the best ways to explain to students, to sell this idea to students that if you want to, you can obviously walk away from this, but at the start of the semester we will give you a bus pass that it could be incorporated in your student ID. It may be a separate card, whatever it is. But at the beginning of the semester, everyone gets something, and then you have an option to opt out. I think that's a better risk taking.
To also quickly elaborate or expand on it, in addition to the opt-out issues, there was this new fee and there was not a lot of definitive plans of how it's going to help students specifically. So it was very much like, oh, we want to improve the bus system. St. John's has all these ideas. How are we going to do it? Well, there's a lot of students at MUN. We'll make them pay for it. So it was like putting more funds and fees on the backs of students, and we're already facing so many other fee increases. There were some suggestions on like increasing frequency of routes, but again, there's such a large population of students out in, I believe you had said before, the schools.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
and there's
spread
no,
out.
and there's no bus at all in the schools. So how do we do that? Yeah.
And universities, colleges, even in St. John's or closer to St. John's are so spread out. It's almost difficult to have them all by one string, because it's just weird geography, but that's how it is, and we need to build around it. We need to be adaptive of the system that we have and work around it.
But also, Antoine, you had mentioned about the ANC providing buses. I'm wondering if you're familiar with, and if you're not, that's okay, if you're familiar with any other settlement service providers across Canada that provide transportation. Is that very common, or is that uncommon?
No, unfortunately, it's not very common. It is actually very uncommon because, like, end of the day, what we want is our clients to be relying on the Metro Transit. Because if we provide buses and taxis and we keep on funding these services, they won't be able to using the transit service, and hence the transit service won't have the funds to be able to improve their systems and services. So our goal is to get our clients to get on the Metro Transit as soon as possible.
Could anybody who is listening to this now in this room, who is having to spend money to help other people to do the thing they need to do, just let the students know, let me know, and we can start adding it up, because I think nobody's adding this up. We have a sense, but maybe if we just like literally presented the tab, there would be a sense that people would then understand where all the little bits here and there are coming from.